In 1987, a climber named Martin Ohl fell to his death on a mountain in the Alps. His body was found at the base of a cliff, and the coroner fixed the time of his death with confidence to the early afternoon. His climbing partner had watched him fall. But when they developed the film in Martin's camera, recovered from his pack, there was a final photograph. It showed Martin at the summit, alive, smiling, the sky behind him already going dark. And the summit was 3 hours above the cliff he had already, hours earlier, fallen from and died. Stay with me. 2 people watched him die, and the photograph is real. Martin Ohl was an experienced alpinist, climbing that day with one partner, a man named Dieter, on a route they both knew. In the early afternoon, high on the face, Martin fell. Dieter saw it happen, the slip, the rope failing to hold, the long silence of a body going down a mountain. He could do nothing. He descended for hours in shock and raised the alarm, and a recovery team reached Martin's body at the base of the cliff the next morning. The coroner examined him and determined he had died on impact, in the early afternoon, at the time Dieter had watched him fall. There was no ambiguity. The injuries, the temperature of the body, the account of the only witness, all agreed. Martin carried a camera, as climbers did then, a small one loaded with film, and it was recovered from his pack, damaged but intact. His family asked to have the film developed, wanting whatever last images of him it held. The roll came back with the ordinary photographs of a climb. The valley below at dawn. Dieter on a ridge. The route ahead. And then, as the last frame on the roll, a photograph that should not have been possible. It showed Martin Ohl at the summit of the mountain. Alone, holding the camera at arm's length the way people do to photograph themselves, his face filling half the frame, grinning, exhilarated, the summit cairn visible behind his shoulder and beyond at the sky, and the sky was deep blue going to dark, the color of late evening, hours after the early afternoon light in which he had fallen. The summit was 3 hours of hard climbing above the cliff where Martin died. To take that photograph, Martin would have had to continue up the mountain for 3 hours after the fall that killed him, reach the top, photograph himself smiling in the failing evening light, and then be at the base of the cliff, dead since early afternoon, when the recovery team arrived. The timeline is not merely difficult. It is 2 mutually exclusive facts. Martin Ohl was at the bottom of the mountain, dead, in the early afternoon. Martin Ohl was at the top of the mountain, alive and smiling, in the late evening. Both are documented. Both are certain. Neither leaves room for the other. They examined the photograph as carefully as such things can be examined. The film was genuine, the same roll as the earlier climb photos, developed together, the frame numbers continuous and unbroken. The summit photo was frame 24, following frame 23 of the route below, on one physical strip of film that had never been cut or spliced. The camera was Martin's, damaged in the fall, the last frame exposed before the mechanism jammed on impact. The evening light in the photograph matched the summit's known sky. Everything about it was real, and everything about it was impossible. Dieter, the partner, was questioned as a matter of course, because a witness to a death whose account conflicts with the evidence is always questioned. But nothing about Dieter suggested a lie, and a lie would explain nothing anyway. No lie puts a dead man's smiling photograph at a summit he reached after dying. Dieter had watched his friend fall in the early afternoon. He was certain of it, and he was clearly, permanently shaken by it, and he gained nothing from the story he told, which never changed. The case was closed the only way it could be, with the death recorded at the time and place it physically occurred, and the photograph filed as unexplained, which is the closest the official world comes to admitting it has met something it cannot hold. Martin Ohl died at the base of the cliff in the early afternoon. That is the ruling, and it is correct. His family kept the photograph. His sister said, years later, that she had stopped trying to understand it and had started, instead, simply to look at it, because whatever else it was the last picture of her brother, and in it he was not falling and he was not broken at the bottom of a mountain. He was at the very top, higher than he had died, in the last light of a day he had not lived to see, and he was smiling the way a man smiles when he has just done the thing he came to do, and reached the place he set out to reach, whatever it cost, and however long after the end.